I apologize for my voice, I'm a little bit sick. I'm sure y'all remember a little movie event last year that people were calling Barbenheimer, where two movies, Barbie and Oppenheimer, seemingly polar opposite films, released on the same day. So many people flocked to see both of them on the same day, and they were both hugely successful. Well, this year there were another two seemingly opposite films that released on the same day. Gladiator II, the sequel to a critically acclaimed film from 2000, and Wicked, a film adaptation of a stage adaptation of a book adaptation of characters from another book. And I'm sure the studios were really banking on the Barbenheimer formula to kick in again and bring in huge crowds of people to both movies. There was just one problem though. Before Barbie and Oppenheimer both came out, they both looked like really good movies. Gladiator II and Wicked both looked alright, but they definitely were not generating the same levels of hype. Personally, I was a little more excited for Gladiator 2, because my girlfriend really likes the first film, and she showed it to me for the first time recently. And yeah, it's phenomenal. Wicked, I was less hopeful for.
This week, people are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that and feeling power in that.
I didn't know that was happening. That's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that was happening.
But did either one meet my expectations? Did either one surprise me for good or ill? And then there's the obvious question, which one's better? Well, let's dive in. Like I said, I really enjoyed the first Gladiator when I first watched it recently. It is a timeless classic, and the simple story of revenge, fueled by Maximus's devotion to his lost family, just hits super deep. So, I'm sad to say that 24 years later, Gladiator 2 does not hit quite as deep. And really, I think it boils down to one major issue. This film is way less personal than its predecessor. The first film keeps you invested from beginning to end with Maximus's goal of avenging his family. But in this film, the main character starts out with a similar motivation, wanting vengeance against Pedro Pascal, but as the film goes on, his motivation kind of shifts and changes. And other characters start getting twisted in with their desires and motivations, and by the end, it's all kind of blown out of proportion. It goes from being about the more personal conflict to being about the whole future of Rome or something, which I know the first film kind of dabbles in both, but this second film doesn't seem to have the same sense of focus. The good thing though is that it's still fun to watch. The sets and costumes are so amazingly cool, and the action sequences are just straight up rad. They threw in boat battles and all kinds of animals to fight, like sharks and rhinos and CGI baboons. I love me some cool animal fights. I just wish that through all this cool fighting, I could have felt what the main character was fighting for. And I just didn't. So I gotta say, Gladiator 2, more like Mediator 2. Wicked, I was much less excited for. I know absolutely nothing about the original musical, but based on the trailers, I thought the music was good, but the whole thing was kind of giving me the same vibes as like one of those live-action Disney remakes, or their version of The Nutcracker or The Wizard of Oz. I can't really explain why it was giving me those vibes. Maybe it was the look, maybe it was the feel, I don't know. I was actually kind of shocked that it wasn't Disney, it was actually Universal that made this. But you know what? Universal did a really good job. I was shocked at how invested I was in these characters and this story. And that is thanks in large part to the phenomenal music, which not only sounds great, but does exactly what musical numbers are supposed to do. Move the story forward and help you get to know these characters and this world. I know it helps having your numbers come from one of the most famous Broadway productions of all time, but these performers did some fantastic renditions of them. The choreography in particular is spectacular. It looks so good and alive on screen, with great cinematography to follow it. There's one scene that really impressed me because it marked a major shift in the characters, and it communicated everything almost entirely through dance. All that, plus the sets they're on and the costumes they're wearing, are all so creative with this sense of magic to them. They did pretty much everything they could to make this show adapt perfectly from the stage to the screen. And then there's our two main lead roles, Galinda, played by Ariana Grande, and Elphaba, played by Cynthia Erivo. And although these two actresses have been strange in their interviews before the release,
I didn't know that was happening.
their actual performances are great. They sound great, they play the parts perfectly. They're genuinely really well cast. And this movie is a genuinely moving journey centered around these two that looks great, sounds great, and by the end, during the iconic Gravity song, I was getting chills multiple times. So, I gotta say, Wicked? More like Gasket. Wow, that took a turn I was not expecting. I genuinely was expecting Gladiator 2 to be more enjoyable for me than Wicked. But in the end, while Gladiator wasn't bad, it just wasn't anything I was getting sucked into. And I'm surprised to say that I just got a lot more into Wicked. I reckon it just goes to show you can never know what to expect in the movies anymore. Except people taking pictures of the screen, apparently. Yeah, I guess that's a trend now. Stop doing that!